Afternoon, good Thursday afternoon. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I have a thing about being on time and I just broke all of my own rules. But I hate my laptop camera, which is what you guys see me on right now. The video quality is just horrendous. So I ordered myself a new webcam and the quality is much better, but it was delivered by Amazon like 15 minutes ago. And I'm like, I can get it working. I can get it plugged in. I can get it all set up before I go live. And no, it completely locked up my computer. Like from ground zero, no buttons would work. Nothing would work. So we're going to play around with that before I actually try using it at a live, like 5 minutes before going live. But this is a wonderful day. We should be expecting Salty in here anytime. She said she was going to be able to join me, and she's been doing some like deep dives into the Lori Vallow case in Arizona. So we all watched her wackadoodle trial in Idaho, including her closing statement that was just insane. To quote a legal term, the technical medical term, she's nuts. And I was like probably 8 to 10 feet away from her today. Seeing her in person for the first time was interesting. I mean, you can't tell just looking at her that she's nuts. And she didn't speak in court at all. The doctors didn't speak in court at all today. It was just the attorneys and the judge. But it was an interesting experience. In Maricopa County or Maricopa Superior Court, well, the whole complex, the whole court complex, because there were multiple courts, multiple towers, and it was a breath of fresh air after my experience in Delphi with the Carroll County Courthouse. Forrest, because nuts in the fact that she's got some psychological conditions, like borderline. Oh, there's Salty. Come on in. Come on up.
Hello. Sorry I'm late. Hey, sorry.
I was late too.
Oh,
I tried a new webcam and it completely locked up my laptop.
Oh no. Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was trying it at the last second, so I didn't have time to set it up ahead of time, but it like literally locked up my computer, so I had to hard reboot it.
I'm on my phone, so I can be mobile. My grandson was having a moment, so I had to deal with that little moment. Now he's doing his homework, so it's all good. But yeah, I'm about to go grab a cup of coffee, so continue. I'm going to mute and take you with me.
Sure. So Forrest asked, she's nuts, but she's competent. How does that work? So the competency thing is just an evaluation by a qualified doctor, I assume like some type of psychiatrist, psychologist. I always mix those words up, but just, is she aware of the charges and can she help her defense put on a case for her? That has nothing to do with the crime that was committed. It has nothing to do with her mental state or emotional state at the time the crime was committed. It's about right now. Where is she at? Mentally, emotionally, psychologically. Can she help her defense team? And she just tried to, well, she did file a motion to represent herself, and the judge was like, no, that's not happening. So I think her attorney today, this may have been the first court appearance for her attorney today, maybe. She definitely looked, I wouldn't say flustered, but like she was trying to keep up. And she said something that was interesting that I'll get into later, because when we get to the actual hearing that I went to at 8:30 this morning, and I got in the courtroom at like 8:26, Lori Vallow wasn't in there yet. I'm going to call her Lori Daybell because I don't have to save this for chronological time later. When the judge asked her to state her name and her date of birth, she said Lori Daybell, 6/26/73. So she still considers herself Daybell, but the Vallow part of it she left out was her dead husband's or dead ex-husband's name.
Yeah, the man she's charged with conspiracy to commit murder. But yeah, she's still legally married to Chad. So
Yeah, and that's how she introduced herself. So that's good to know, because that's what I'm going to call her from now on. Is just
yeah,
Lori Daybell.
just makes it easy, right? Which Daybell you talking about, male or female? It's crazy with her competency back and forth stuff, because she did apply to represent herself, but then she failed to show up for a couple of hearings. Well, how can you represent yourself if you're not going to come to the hearings? So they did the competency thing, and two different doctors now found her competent.
Yes, in this trial. So
Yeah.
Forrest actually has a question about her competency in the Idaho trials, and you have an answer for that, right?
Yeah, so she was found incompetent at one point during the Idaho case for JJ and Tylee, because that's where her murder charges were at for the kids, was in Idaho. So anyway, she was found incompetent for like 10 months and was actually put into the mental hospital there. I guess every state, like Florida, we have a state mental hospital. I guess every state has them. But so she was kept in the hospital for 10 months, and then she was reevaluated, of course, and things of that nature took place, and was found competent again. And when she was, that's when they proceeded with trial. And then she was found guilty on those charges. So
Right, and that's exactly where we're at right now in this one after this morning's hearing.
Because she doesn't think she's crazy. It's the courts, and even during the other trial in Idaho, Lori doesn't see herself as having mental health issues. Okay. She thoroughly, in my opinion, she believes what she believes. And you see that in her statements. It doesn't, I'm not justifying what she did. It's horrible, horrible what she did, and especially in the name of what she did it for. But she believes this stuff. And if she doesn't believe it and it's all a hoax or ruse, whatever, then she's acting this part to the T. Do you know what I mean? So
and she seemed perfectly normal and engaging, and
she does appear that
I'm
way.
not going to say happy-go-lucky today, but she flashed, bright, engaging smiles with her defense team. You have her female attorney, I forget her name, but
that would be her normal personality. Like, honestly, because I've been following this case since it was announced on the news. These kids were missing, just like with other cases I have followed with kids. And I watched everything with Eaton, when he, chased her down in Hawaii and found her in Chad when they were served subpoenas to produce the children because they weren't producing the kids. But that's her normal personality, is to be bubbly and happy-go-lucky, that kind of thing. But during her trial, some of the hearing, well, they would have a little bit of video for like the news, because they didn't have cameras in her Idaho cases. She didn't want them. They had audio, but she would be like on medication. It would appear, because she would just be like just sitting like a zombie almost. But then when she wasn't like that, she was normally like you just described.
Right. And I think that's her default personality. I think she's engaging. I think she's charismatic. I mean,
yes, it's part of her charm. Five husbands.
Right. Yes. Except for the five husband thing. Like, I would, like, if I met her, in court on the other side of the wall separating the gallery, I might like go out to dinner with her, I mean, be like, but then find out about those five husbands and 3 of them are dead. You're like, 4 of them are dead. You're like, no. So I put a link up there to East Idaho News. East Idaho News is a fantastic source for everything.
Yes,
Lori
it
and
is.
Chad.
It really is.
Yeah, they have broken several stories on this, and are
Nate was following.
so.
Nate is there in Idaho, so he wasn't. I think he's based out right out of Boise, right? So it wasn't far from him and all of the things. So he was like onto the story right away because it was local, basically, to him. And then when he realized they were in Hawaii, because I watched there's a good, if you look it up on YouTube, there's a good piece about it. With the news there. Anyway, so he goes and he gets on the plane. And I don't know, a lot of you, if you followed the case back then, you might remember this when it happened. But he jumps on the plane and he flies to Hawaii and he tracks them down and he found them. Until then, none of us had really ever seen a picture, I mean, a live picture of what this woman looked like. We just knew about her and her weird boyfriend. They took off and these kids were missing and no one knew where they were at. So it's like, why did this mother take off like that? Why won't she answer questions about where her own children are? So he tracks them down and approaches them, and starts, trying to get a story out of them. And it was crazy. They looked normal. Lori looked normal. She appeared normal. She reads the documents and she's like, like, it's like Chad sits up and he kind of wants to read the documents, and it's like, what are these two doing? And then here we are, all these years later, right? With the
Yeah.
kids' murders being their murder trials being done, and of course she was found guilty. Chad's trials are over and he was found guilty. Her brother, who was implicated in the deaths, Alex, you'll speak of him during this show, he's gone as well. Chad's wife
Yeah.
Tammy is gone. There's like a whole bunch of people, and now they're
There's
on
a trail of
trial.
bodies. There's a trail
Yes.
of bodies, not just the
Yes,
kids.
everywhere, and now she's
Yeah.
on trial for this, one's a murder conspiracy charge, right? For Charles, her husband at the time, and the
I believe
other
so.
one
Yeah.
is, and the other one is conspiracy to commit murder, which would have been for Brandon Boudreaux, which was at the time married to her niece. So a nephew by marriage was attempted murder, and then her husband at the time, conspiracy.
Right. And
He
not
was
only
in
are
the,
these all these bodies, but weren't they also spending like the Social Security money of the kids or something like that? Didn't they
yes,
get charged with that?
after the kids were like missing officially, even before then, when they think they were missing already, Lori continued to collect disability for both kids. Tylee's father had passed away, and that's Lori's third husband.
Yeah,
And
let's dive into that. Let's dive into that real quick.
yeah.
I've
So
got
there's a
good
lot
old,
to unpack with this lady. I mean, right? There's a
and
lot of people in her wake.
you wouldn't suspect it. I was 3 rows back, right where she came out of that door in the holding room, and you wouldn't just look at her and go, she's associated with like the deaths of like 10 people or something crazy.
Right.
I don't even
Yes.
know what the count
Like, I
is.
mean,
But
we've heard the term Black Widow before because we have one of those local. Judy Wayano was one of them, and I probably butchered her last name. And there's another serial killer lady, I think, that they dubbed that name with as well. But Lori would take the cake, man. I mean, she
oh
really
yeah.
would. But yeah, they
So
spent money, and she would also got insurance money from Charles, I believe.
right.
Um,
Yes, from
then
his life
so
insurance policy.
I'm assuming she got some from Tylee's dad as well. I don't know if they were still married when he passed away, though. I have to look at those dates. But yeah, that's interesting.
Right here, Wikipedia has a good old Wikipedia. So she was born in California. She grew up in a Mormon family. In 92, at the age of 19, she married her high school boyfriend, but they got divorced shortly thereafter. In 95, she got married again and had a son named Colby, and then got divorced again.
Mm-hmm.
She's a hairdresser, and she was a contestant in the Mrs. Texas beauty pageant. I didn't know that.
Yes.
In 2001, here we go. Here's the trail of bodies start. In 2001, Lori married Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr., who legally adopted Colby, who was her son from one of her previous marriages, the second one, I believe. They divorced in 2005, had a bitter custody battle. She accused him of sexually assaulting the children. I've got to say that. I've got to remember I'm on YouTube. Ryan lost the custody battle, and her brother, Alex Cox, we're going to see that name again, attacked Ryan in 2007. So he physically attacks people that Lori has a problem with.
Yeah, so the man they're speaking about was Tylee's biological father. And Lori already had her son Colby. If you're not familiar with Colby, he has a YouTube channel now. So there was Colby, and then together with Ryan, Joseph Ryan, they had Tylee Ryan. And so at one point there was issues between her and him. They had a custody battle over Tylee, and Alex, the brother to Lori, the one she seemed to have manipulative control over, attacked that man for Lori, right? And so then he ends up mysteriously dying of natural causes, like yeah,
Arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease.
yeah, yeah. He had like a heart attack or a heart issue, was right.
So, right. So if
Mhm.
he's anywhere near her age, he was in his 40s at the time, in
Yes,
his early to mid 40s. So it's an interesting age to develop fatal arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
and after she was arrested in 2020 for this other stuff, a recording surfaced in which she mentioned that she wanted to kill him like Nephi killed. Now, Nephi is a Mormon reference. He's one of the main people in the Book of Mormon, which is specific to the LDS Church. So she wanted to kill him. Police reviewed the death, and they didn't find anything to suspect foul play. Okay. I wonder what they did to review his death. Like, did they exhume the body? Did they do another autopsy on it?
I don't know. There's a comment here from Brooklyn that says Joe died at home unattended and was left there for too long for an autopsy. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Women's hair dye and sunglasses were found in his house, and he was not dating anyone. Yeah, I saw a couple of interesting things said online, right? Over time, and I've had to refresh with a lot of this stuff from a long time ago that would pertain to now, like the players and the people involved. But yeah, there's a lot of still questions out there. Yeah, with even with his death, so going back to him, and the suspicions that are there, but nothing ever came of those stupid other than rumors.
Right. So then in February of 2006, Lori married Leland Charles Anthony Vallow, commonly known as Charles. In 2013, they adopted JJ because JJ's birth parents weren't able to care for him.
JJ is okay. So Lori married Charles. Charles has a sister, Kay Woodcock. Kay is the grandmother of JJ. So it was her son's son. He couldn't care for JJ. So Kay and Larry, her husband, took JJ in as a baby, and they were raising him. And Lori was married to Charles, her brother, and they were doing great. And Lori was fantastic and was a great mother to her other children and loved JJ, and Charles loved him as well. And they spent a lot of time with him. So Kay thought it was better for them to raise him in a family environment with the other kids and things of that nature and all that. And they're younger. And so they decided as a family that was okay. And they are still grandparents. So they did that. And it was working for quite a while, according to Kay. Kay is very vocal about Lori and the whole situation. So everything was great for a while, you know what I mean, between everybody. And so they adopted JJ.
And then this. So
And then she betrayed the
chronologically,
entire family, she betrayed
she
all
met
of them.
Chad Daybell.
Yes, yes.
So
She was still married to Charles when she met Chad. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so Chad was doing this kind of crazy Mormon offshoot thing called Standing in Holy Places.
Yeah.
He did books, and then he did like little presentations of
book
signings. I don't know, whatever it was.
In 1990 is when he got married to Tammy Daybell, which was his wife, and he established a little book company called Spring Creek Book Company, and that's where he would publish his books. So he ended up writing like a series of books that are about the prepping parts of what they do, getting ready and recognizing the dark spirits and all these different things. And Lori had stumbled upon his books and his podcast, and that's how it all began. I think it was like in 2018 that they met at a like a religious conference. So yeah,
Yes. Right. And I think he might have been like one of the keynote speakers in that, something like that.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So he was a nerd. I mean, honestly, he started a book company, and she was a contestant in for Miss Texas. I mean, they're just, these seem like two completely different types of people to
Yeah,
meet and carry out all of this horrible stuff. I mean, just looking at the two of them from the outside, looking in, it just doesn't make sense to me how the two of them hooked up. But they did. They did while she was still married to Charles.
they were doing a podcast like right before 2019 started, I think, or right around that time. And Chad and Lori had started this, and this was like after she all the the meeting and everything. Anyway, it was focused on the end of the world and prepping people that to prepare for that. Preparing a people podcast, time to warrior up, something like that. I think some of that stuff's been removed, but that's what they started doing, and so
Right.
she was
And
getting very into the following of that mindset. I mean, that wasn't too far off from some of their LDS teachings, but the prepping and the staging and preparing and all that. And they took it a step further by thinking they could tell which people among them were the bad people, like the demons or the dark ones and things like that. That's what whatever they called them.
okay, so the way that Wikipedia words it, in 2018, December of 2018, gosh, that's 6 years ago today. 6 years
Yeah.
ago today, Chad and Lori appeared on a podcast episode, Time to Warrior Up, the Preparing a People podcast. The two were
Yeah.
featured in several other episodes. A religious group formed around Chad and his teachings. What?
Hmm.
He and Lori
Yeah.
told their followers that they belonged to the Church of the Firstborn, of which Chad was the leader. So this is where we get the doomsday cult label
Yeah.
for her, which is funny because we don't really get it for him as much as we do for her.
Well,
Like,
yeah. Well, Chad, they all thought Chad could have visions. And if you look, the more you look into what they did as a group, and when I say group, there was like quite a few of them, and they were spoke about heavily in her trials in Idaho. These people um, that were brought up in the whole investigation and all the things that were in these little groups that they had, and just it was insane that some of the things that they would do and the teachings that they taught, right, that they would go by. Um, and then Chad would like have these visions he would tell them, and they all believed it. So whatever Chad envisioned, if he envisioned him and Lori together forever, then that's the way it was supposed to be, and whatever it took to get there. Like what? That's crazy. But there was a lot of things like that that came up in the trial that so it was kind of like very, very cultish, like, you know what I mean? Get him to believe whatever I say. Like he's a
right.
prophet. Like he was a prophet. So yeah.
And maybe that was her attraction to him, because he, in their little circle, their little world,
Mm-hmm. Because before she met Chad,
he
she was
had
already,
power, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but was it because the reports were even before she really met him, she was already starting to get really on the fringe with her religion, because that was a part of the problem for her and Charles. And Charles had actually called authorities, and he needed to get I think he got approved to get her evaluated. Um, because he told them and he warned them that she had became extreme religious and he didn't feel comfortable. Something was going to happen. And they kind of didn't believe it right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there was that before that. And then she finds Chad Daybell. And then the next thing we know, Charles is dead and her brother has shot him. And now she's on, here
Right.
we are with that trial. But there's a
Yeah.
lot that went on between that, Golly, just what went on between that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he ends up dead. Pokemon, I want to clarify a little bit. I meant that because of their religious belief system, a lot of Mormons are more sci-fi based. I mean, it's easier for them to get into sci-fi. In fact, one of the best science fiction writers of all time is Mormon. That's Orson Scott Card. Ender's Game is my favorite book of all time. So it's just their belief that someday they're going to become a god and they're going to be able to create worlds, and they're going to have their own worlds that they're gods of in their own corner of the universe where they live kind of with their family forever, but kind of not. So that all of that is kind of like sci-fi leaning, and that's all I meant by that. I don't mean that, that everybody who likes sci-fi is susceptible to becoming a Mormon. I hope not. That's not what I meant by that. Anyway, now that I explained that, let's get into the Wikipedia section about the killing of Charles Vallow, which is what she's being tried for, being some part of the killing of her husband. And I think he was still her husband when he was killed, right? They hadn't filed for divorce or divorced.
I think he had filed in February.
That's right. Yes.
I think I think it was January 31st, January 30th, 31st in 2019. Charles called the police, and that's when I think that's when he got the okay to get the mental health help or whatever. So anyway, the officers determined she had a normal state of mind and she was medically cleared. So whatever that meant for that episode there. And then in February that's when he filed for divorce. And I think it was
Wikipedia
June.
says she vanished for 58 days, so 2 months after.
Right.
So
okay.
in February of 2019, she told him that she didn't care for him or JJ. What?
Yeah.
And then she vanished for 2 months. He filed for divorce, cited the threats to his life, the theft of his truck, the theft of $35,000 from their joint bank accounts. Oh, wow.
She went to Hawaii during that time. So apparently at one point, her and Charles actually lived in Hawaii for, I think, about 2 years. And they had a little business or something. Then they came back, right? So there was that was time in Hawaii there. And then now you're here at this stage, she takes off and disappears for the 2 months. And that's allegedly was in Hawaii. And then when the kids go missing and they finally track her ass down, where's she at in Hawaii? I mean, what's up, lady, with this Hawaii thing? She's obsessed with it. So if Lori Vallow ever breaks out of prison and goes missing, we all know to go to Hawaii. She's going to die trying to get there, isn't she? My word.
Don't check for her under my bed.
You won't be taken in by that beauty, that charisma and charm.
The Jolly Rancher lipstick.
I know, right? When you said that, all I could think of was that bright red lipstick I would see her wearing at some of the hearings. I was laughing so hard because you were so right about the candy lipstick. Yep, that's jailhouse lipstick for you. But hey, whatever works. Girls got to try, I guess. But
yeah,
the clown show's a bit much, right? I mean, tone it down, sister. Tone it down.
I think, but her hair is like amazing. How does she get her hair?
No, she's one of those women. I tell you, she's one of those women that were just blessed with a beautiful head of hair. Like I wasn't. So every time you see her, her hair's like the same. So she's not getting extensions in the jail. She's not getting, $100 haircuts and blowouts and all the things. She's not getting all that coloring done. She's just getting jailhouse cuts. She's just been blessed with pretty hair. I'll give her that much. She's just one of those.
Well, I because it's all wavy, I was wondering if like she was using toilet
Mhm.
paper rollers or something.
Hey, she might be. She might be. They very well. She's got easy to curl hair. All she got to do is roll it up in one or two, and she's good to go.
Right. All right. So
They have
anyway,
their
so
ways. They have their ways.
yeah, yes, they have their ways. They have their toilet hooch.
Shoe
Ugh,
polish, eyebrows. I okay. This one girl told me that they what is it like thread? That's what it was. Thread to do eyebrows. I was like, how is that even possible? I don't understand. Socks, braids, or buns before beds. Yeah, braids gives it that wavy effect. If you braid your hair
there
at
you go.
night, yeah, and take it down in the morning, you get that wavy effect. Yeah, so they got tricks.
Something that most
Yeah,
guys never have to worry about, although some of them do. Some of
you
them do.
got your beauty girls up there in the big house. There's that little team of beauty girls that they got plenty of work.
You know what, Couch Juror? I'm of the same mindset. Like that cardiovascular disease just does not sit right with me.
Yeah,
Not considering all of the other bodies that she has on her ledger. That I mean,
I I
children
agree.
included, ex-husbands. Her
Her, yeah.
brother is dead now. Her brother is dead, and I'm not saying that's suspicious and that she might have had something to do with his death because he
Oh,
defended her and he
her
would
older
attack people.
brother. Her older brother, I think he's older than Lori and Alex. He also has a podcast out, but even before all that, early on, he had raised suspicions about Tylee's father's death, Joe Ryan's death. And how Alex had went after him on Lori's behalf, and here we are again with things happening and Alex doing stuff on Lori's behalf again. And then now you have Charles dead and Alex shot him, and then all these things. So it's like she always had a manipulative control over her little brother. You know what I mean? That kind of
Yeah,
bond that she could just make him do whatever the hell she wanted.
right.
And oddly enough, the guy he got married. There's a lady named Zaluma that was coming up in her trial all the time in Idaho. Well, that was his wife, but she'd only been married to Alex about 2.5, 3 weeks when he died of what they actually ended up deeming natural causes. But the lady told police she didn't know Lori very well, but when the child got home and was interviewed, that was a different story. Oh, my mom and Lori were good friends. They went to the same church thing. They were both preppers and all these things. She was one of Lori's good friends. And then she marries Alex for 2.5, 3 weeks. And then lo and behold, he's gone. And it's like, what? Alex was the weak link between her and Daybell and the murders of the kids because he helped with the murders of the kids and he shot Charles. And they knew that charges, all the things. So then he's gone. That just left Lori and Chad. And
Right.
they haven't turned on each other. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
and
saying?
she willingly still claims his name. So
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I wonder if they're writing each other now, like writing each other letters. There's no
well,
law that says they can't, but that'd be interesting if they did.
it was crazy to me that the court has her listed under Lori Vallow. Like not even Lori Vallow Daybell. It's Lori Vallow is how the court has her listed. So
I don't
and
know why. Yeah, if you
when I
look at the Idaho, the judicial page there with the cases of interest where you go find all the co-burger stuff at, right below him is Lori. Chad's used to be there, but now his case is over and done with. It's gone. Now Lori's case is gone as well. It used to all be there, and it was like forever, pages and pages, it seemed like, of the Daybell Vallow stuff. All that's gone now because their cases are done, but Lori's new stuff is there where she's filing appeal in Idaho with the Supreme Court. I mean, not the Supreme Court, but she's taken it to the appeals court anyway, to appeal her conviction in Idaho. And so those documents are all right there. And that is kind of like on hold, I think, right now. It's not really on hold, but there's a date set. But I was thinking, how in the world can she be appealing these murder charges in Idaho? And they're over here trying to find her competent or not over here in Arizona. It's
Yeah.
crazy. You know,
Yeah.
Figure it out. Is this woman really crazy, or does she absolutely honestly believe what she believes? And if she does believe that, does that make her crazy? You know what I mean? Figure it out. It's not hard. Just call her crazy, but if you do that, then you got to have a different kind of trial, right?
Right. Well, two doctors found her competent in the last month, so
Mhm.
that's how we're proceeding with that. But
Well,
let's go back and look real quick at Charles's death. I wanna look at that video of the body cam of that police officer that arrived when
okay,
Alex
cool.
Cox was sitting out on the curb.
All right.
So second paragraph, Charles Vallow sought a protective order against her, but then he withdrew it a month after that, and he said he wanted to try to work it out with her. Dude, go with what your attorney says and go with your gut.
I know, right? Because initially he did file that, and remember he had even had to call 911 and stuff. So I don't know what made him. It's interesting. What date was that? I'd like to know that when he decided.
Oh, they don't have a date on it.
Oh,
So it was
okay.
somewhere before July of 2019. So between February and July of 2019. So early 2019. Then he discovers the affair. So they were still married when she was bonking Chud.
Yeah.
I mean, good grief. They were still married. How does that, let's do the Doug Carter magic hands. How does that meld with your religious beliefs? Like, I mean,
Because
I
when
know
they're weird, when they're strange beliefs that you incorporate with this zombie stuff and these dark soul stuff and these cleansings that they would do, there's a whole ritual aspect that was going on here. You know, I mean, to where they had complete control over Alex at one point. It was so obvious, you know, and if you did anything that was wrong, it's kind of, you needed to let Chad know, and they would perform a cleansing ceremony. And, you know, it was like, what? All this stuff that was going on. And there was a lot of followers, actually. They were all brought up in her other trial in Idaho. I don't know how they'll pertain to this one. A couple of them may, because they have information, like, you know, Brandon Boudreaux, the guy she's charged with the conspiracy charge on. He was married to Lori's niece. So Melanie very well could be brought into this because, you know, could it relate, and could they bring it up? I don't know how it's going to go yet. Like you were saying,
right.
so tomorrow is a status conference hearing, right?
Correct, at 8:30 a.m. in front of a different judge. And I didn't catch the name of the judge, so I'll have to
Why
tell you
are
about
they?
something.
So today the
Status hearing,
judge is
just
okay. But so
go ahead.
today the judge was for the competency hearing, right?
Yes.
And then tomorrow is the criminal case judge that oversees the
I
criminal
assume
case.
I assume so,
I'm
yes, because the
assuming.
status hearing is them
Okay,
just saying how prepared are you
gotcha.
to proceed to trial, and let's set
Right.
some dates and all of that stuff. Which
Yeah.
I would bet it's going to be at least 18 to 24 months before they're ready for an actual trial. I mean,
Well, I believe
the
that what I saw earlier when they were going to upload the hearing, that I think tomorrow's hearing they approved cameras and will be televised. So I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I'll be looking for that link because you're going to be there, right? You plan on
Yes.
going, or
Yeah,
okay,
I'm going to
cool,
show up even earlier today.
cool,
The gallery only had like 10 people in it, maybe. I mean, there was room for like 5 times that many. I mean, it's a similar gallery size to Carroll County, but there was like nobody there. There were
right?
three ladies in front of me, the TV cameras in the back, and there were like 4 people on the other side. So yes, I'm going to go, but I'm going to go a little bit earlier because there might be more people tomorrow. Courthouse opens at 7:30, and I've got to figure out where it's at because I missed the judge's name. And I'll tell you something cool about the Maricopa Superior Court house that was real, that there were a lot of things that were a lot nicer than the Carroll County Courthouse, but a couple things that made it a lot easier to navigate around. But let's
Yeah,
get
I would
through.
imagine it's a large facility because it's a large,
There's
a
multiple
large
towers.
county jail.
Like
Yeah.
you go in the north tower, and then you have to go up an escalator, and you have to go through hallways, 2 or 3 different hallways, and a walkway that connects the buildings to get to the south tower, which is where the hearing was today. But I
So
made it
was
in
there like a lot of there wasn't a lot of like national media out there today?
Nope, not at all.
I wonder if there will be tomorrow. I'm just curious. Huh.
Yeah, so there were a couple of things that people tried to discourage me from going today. And one thing a couple of people told me was, well, she didn't even show up for her last competency hearing, so there's a good chance she won't show up at this one. And I'm like, maybe not. I mean, at some point she's got to show up and be found either competent or not competent. So I'm going. And then, so I called the court clerk to get some information about where the hearing was going to be at, and what I was allowed to bring in and what I wasn't allowed to bring in. And by the way, the 2 ladies that were reporters that were sitting up on the opposite side of the courthouse, or on the opposite side of the gallery today, both had their laptops in there and were typing up notes on their laptops during the hearing. And I'm like, whoa, we never got anything like that in Carroll County. Judge Gohl would have been like kicking them out.
No, you wouldn't have got within range of the courthouse with that stuff.
Right. You would not have even gotten through security. And the security was amazing.
The secret satellites would have zapped you.
Right. No. Tony Liggett would have come up, and he would have slapped the cuffs on, and he would have confiscated.
Yeah. No more media stuff confiscated. Oh Lord, don't wear them spy glasses, damn it.
Don't get me started on spy glasses.
Where's she at?
All right, so top paragraph. Having discovered
you should order a pair, because I guess they're not illegal if they're allowing cameras, right?
No, there are signs posted that say no video or photograph.
Oh, okay.
Photographing of anything inside the courthouse. Like,
okay, well, we got to follow the rules. We don't want to get thrown out. So yeah.
No, I will follow the court rules, whatever they are.
Can't you get like a spy camera and attach it to yourself somewhere though? And
I'm sure I could, but the second that I post it somewhere, I'm gonna have an indictment of my own.
All right. Yeah. I don't take what I just, guys, I'm just bullshitting. Don't go out and buy no spy camera and wear it around now and say I said it, because no, I was joking.
Hey, Kel, good to see you in here.
Yeah, welcome in, guys.
Shoe camera. Problem with shoe cameras is you get additional charges because those things can look up skirts. So you get the voyeurism charges in addition to the recording.
Yeah. You'll catch a charge you wouldn't expect with all that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't believe you that you were just spying on like the criminal. No, you were also looking at women's skirts.
Until I sit in the gallery and turn upside down in the chair and point my shoe at the judge.
Yeah. Well, okay, so like maybe a pen for your tie or something. Like,
right.
You know, they make that stuff. Come on.
They do.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
Anyway, can't you buy ink pens like that now? You can take notes, and your ink pen can be doing like crazy stuff's out there.
Back when I was in Boy Scouts and I got the Boys Life magazine, the very back of that had all of those like spy cameras that you could buy. Like you could turn in Bazooka Joe comics to get some of that stuff.
Cool. All right, so you got a video for us to watch?
Yeah, let's go through these last couple of paragraphs leading up to his death on Wikipedia. He discovered the affair 11 days before he was shot to death. He emailed Tammy Daybell, so Chad's wife, and told her that their spouses were cheating with each other. Tammy opened the message and deleted it, and then she blocked him.
Yeah.
Which tells me something about her
Mhm.
subservience to her husband.
Yes. She didn't
Like
want to
if she
hear it.
wouldn't, yeah,
Yeah.
yep, la
If
la
she
la
don't
la.
hear it, then it's like it's not happening if I don't hear it.
And then Lori and Chad had burner phones, and he went to go pick up JJ at Lori's house. Alex was there. An altercation occurred, and Alex Cox shot and killed Charles Vallow, claiming it
I
was
think
self-defense.
that was what, July 11th of 2019.
Yes, yep. So let's take a look at that. Oh crap, I forgot when I had to reboot my computer. I took down all of those videos that I had preloaded, but it's right here. It's right here. I got it. Hold on. Getting ahead of me there. Trying to keep my StreamYard tab separate from everything else, but that means every time I open it, it opens it with StreamYard. Here we go. And it's a couple seconds before the audio gets turned on.
Okay.
Oh, stop.
Side? No.
It's back up. There we go.
Boy, Jim 97, do you have the subject on the phone step out of the residence with his hands empty?
Alex, her brother, was at her house. He probably knew that Charles was coming to pick up JJ.
That's fine. Fire's right up the street.
So this is the event that this trial is going to be about, plus the other one with the other conspiracy charge.
No weapons? No weapons on you. Come on out this way. Yep. Wherever you have a seat right here. Yep.
Who else is in the house? Okay, just have a seat right there. Let's get FD in here.
Yeah.
Have a seat.
Yeah. 18th Street secure. We got the gentleman out.
You have some ID on you, sir?
Yeah.
What happened today? How did it get to this?
I don't know. He was enraged.
What's going on? What happened?
Well, he was talking with my sister earlier.
No, what happened today, though? Like, just in the last 20 minutes.
He came at me with a bat.
Okay. Was he living here or
No.
visiting?
He came to pick up his son.
Okay, is the son inside?
No. My sister took him to school.
Okay, so it was just you at the house?
Yes.
And he came, how long, what time did he come to pick up the son?
I don't know, 20 minutes ago maybe.
Okay, so you know who he is, let him in?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think they were talking earlier, then she left, and then he got into it with me.
Like what? What do you mean?
I don't know. He was accusing me of...
Come on over here. That truck's going to be really loud. What was he accusing you of?
He was just yelling at me.
Okay. What was he yelling at you about?
About my sister because I'd broken up the tussle with them earlier. And he told me not to interfere anymore with them or I'd pay. When he came at me with a bat.
Okay, so he showed up in the house with a bat in his hand?
No.
Okay, so
There was a scuffle earlier with my sister and my niece. My niece got involved.
about earlier meaning earlier this week, earlier this morning?
Just this morning before they left.
Before your wife left?
My sister.
Before your sister left?
Yeah.
Okay, who lives here with you?
Nobody. I don't live here. My sister lives here and my niece lives here.
And you're just visiting?
I was visiting for the night.
Okay, so you're over here visiting your sister and your
Yes.
niece.
Yes.
Okay, and there was a tussle between your sister and her husband.
Yes.
And does the husband live here or no?
No.
Okay.
Lives in Houston.
Okay, is he an ex-husband or just current husband?
They're working on that.
Gotcha. So at some point earlier today, they get into some type of domestic.
Yeah, just this morning, then they left, and then he came at me.
They left meaning who? Both of the parties?
Yeah, my sister took my niece and my nephew.
Okay, so they left.
Create some space with him, and then he came at me.
Okay, but did he leave also?
No.
He stayed here.
He stayed.
So you guys are kind of talking in between, or what? Who are you? Who are you? No, just go back. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So it's just you and your brother-in-law.
Yes.
Okay, and kind of go through it.
So,
say something like, "Hey, don't touch my sister," or
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then he picked up the bat.
Where was the bat at?
In the living room.
Okay.
The guy inside me?
No, I haven't got it. Charles is the husband of the occupants here, but I guess he lives where?
Houston.
You know his date of birth?
No.
From Houston?
Yeah.
Is this vehicle here? How did he get here?
He's here from Texas?
No, that's my sister's car. I think he came in a rental car. I think my sister's in it.
You think your sister's in the rental car? Okay. So you get in an argument. What is it over?
Well, it was over my sister. He was getting physical with her, and so my niece came out with her bat, and then he took the bat away from her.
Wait a minute, I thought you said your niece left.
She did. This is before.
Okay, so before your sister and your niece left,
Yeah.
at some point your sister and her husband are arguing,
Yes.
verbal argument, and then your niece pulls out a bat.
Well, it wasn't verbal. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with her bat.
Your niece.
Yes.
Okay.
And then she poked at him, and then he took it away.
Okay.
And then I stepped in and told them they needed to separate.
Right.
So then my sister leaves with my niece.
And how long ago did they leave? It's been like an hour, 10 minutes?
20 minutes, maybe. I don't know.
Okay. So not terribly long.
No.
Oh, okay.
And then he's coming back at me, and he's still got the bat in his hand. Like, what are you doing?
Did you hear where he paused right there? He's in the middle of a narrative describing the story, and then he had to pause to think about what the next part of the story was. That doesn't necessarily mean it's deception, but it is one indicator of possible deception. Having to pause to come up with your story as you go.
And he's talking about Tylee coming out with the bat to defend Lori.
Tylee did?
That's who he's talking about. You hear him talking about the person that come out with the bat?
Yes.
He's talking about Tylee. She was there and JJ was there. So after this happened, Lori doesn't say a word to the kids. They get in the car and they leave for school. She takes JJ by, let's see, Burger King was involved. She went to Burger King because JJ wanted Burger King and was at the Walgreens, and then came back. And when she got back, it was her and Tylee that got back together. JJ was at school, and by the time Lori got back, this is what was the scene. Cops everywhere, and her brother on the sidewalk, and her husband dead in the house. And
So
she didn't know what had happened, according to her, right?
So she was or wasn't there at the house when Charles was shot?
She was, but the story was she wasn't, right? Because she left the scene. She took the kids and left, and like nothing had happened, and took JJ to school to get Burger King and took him to school. She went to the Walgreens. They have video surveillance of her at the Walgreens. They didn't know where her phone was the whole entire time that morning. And so anyway, she right off the bat, was lying. And there's the interrogation. Well, not the interrogation, because it was an interview basically with Lori after the shooting, and one with Tylee, because Tylee was witness to everything. So yeah, Lori was there when everything went down.
Tylee witnessed the shooting too?
Apparently not. I don't really remember.
Somewhere close enough to hear a gunshot in the house. If a gun is shot in one of those houses, you know that there has been a
Especially if
gun
she was right there coming at
discharged
them with a
from that.
bat. She's all up in the middle of that, right? She hears everything going down at that point. And so to think that JJ didn't hear anything is crazy. Like he didn't hear Tylee screaming with a bat, stop it, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like he didn't hear things happening. But Lori decided not to tell JJ anything, just take him to school like normal, let him go to school, and then I'll go back and deal with everything. That was her mentality. Crazy.
And this is all probably going to come out in trial if and when
Yes.
it's trial. We're probably going
Right.
to see all of this body cam video and hear her interview, which you got loaded up there. I'm not sure if we got enough time to get through that today, but we can always go back and take a look on it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of
another
material. There's enough material there to cover a couple of shows just to get people familiar with Lori again. You know what I mean? Because so much came out that came out during her trial. There was some we knew about her pre-trial, but a lot more came out during her trial as to who was what and who did what and who helped do what and all of those things. And then you figure out the backstory from those murders, and you realize there's Charles and oh my God, Alex, and all this stuff. And there was the attempt on Tammy Daybell. She thought she was shot at by a paintball gun before she mysteriously died of natural causes. Like, who's doing these autopsies on these people to determine they're all natural causes? Relatively young, healthy adults suddenly passing away. You got a couple of them now. So how are they all just natural causes? What the hell is happening here? But anyway, it's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. And cardiovascular disease does happen to younger people in their
Oh
40s.
yeah, it does. But
It's not unheard of, but
statistically,
dang,
that family's got a lot of things that happen, doesn't it?
coincidence after coincidence after coincidence.
Or all tied to Lori. Wow, go figure. Like you got a walking Barbie serial killer type lady that just walks through life killing her husbands. And it's not far. Women have done it. There are women on Florida's death row that have done it. Like you would be surprised how many husbands, like the lady, that Judy Boyuano lady who tried to blow up one of her husbands. She blew his car up, and in the end, her handicapped son died up here on the river because she overturned a canoe with him in it and racked up a lot of money on his life insurance policy. That's how bad she got and how horrible she was. But before that, she killed a couple of husbands. She was known as the Black Widow. Like, this lady was psycho. She lived actually not far from here at one point during all that. Like, no, it's crazy. People will do, and you don't think people will kill their children, but we've unfortunately seen it time and time again in different ways, different methods and things like that. This is one of those that was just unbelievable from the beginning, because like, who doesn't want to talk about where their missing children are, right? And why won't they answer questions? And they had to freaking track them down to Hawaii, and then you realize all that was going on in between the time the kids actually disappeared. You know what I mean? What led up to all of it is crazy. And now here we are trying to figure out, was this lady, is she really psycho or is she competent? And apparently she's competent. So,
Well, that's what 2 doctors found today.
well, after that 10-month stint in the state hospital in Idaho, they, determined she was fine again and changed her back to competency level and proceeded with trial. So, if she tries that, maybe they have the same type of thing. Get you some help real quick and let's get this figured out and get you stabilized so you understand what's happening again, and then put you back on trial. Like, I don't know. Every state
Right,
has a
and
different competency type thing,
Right. But I think the bottom line is whether or not she can help her defense, formulate a.
I don't think the judge has ruled yet on whether or not she can represent herself. The judge was waiting on the competency. I can't say it. I went to go drink my coffee and I said it. I think the judge was waiting on the hearing to then make a decision about that, depending on her competency. You know what I mean? If she was found incompetent, then no, she can't represent herself. And if she's found competent, then I guess she can represent herself. Will they let her?
Well,
Do they
that's a
have
good
by
question.
law?
And
Do they?
it's
I don't know.
a,
I don't know.
it's a fine line because you can be competent to assist your attorneys in presenting your defense, but that's a
Right.
different level of competency to me than being competent to actually present your own defense without any legal assistance.
Well,
In a case like this, it doesn't make any sense to me. But as prisoners, as a prisoner, she has a right. As an accused, she has a right. So I guess we'll see. That the problem is if she's not a very
let her
good
do
defense
it.
attorney for herself, then
The only thing that worries me is if she gets up there and does it, can she cry foul later on appeal and say she didn't have effective counsel? Like, lady, you were your own counsel. Not
right.
our fault you weren't effective because you got some bogus. I don't know what your argument would be. Either I didn't know, it was all my brother. He's not even here to defend himself. She held that control over his ass. But, she could say a lot of things right now. They need to prove that she knew what he was going to do. And as far as I know, there is some communications about that. There was communication between her and Alex, the brother that shot Charles, about trying to kill Tylee's dad, Joseph Ryan. That came from her older brother that said that, so I don't know, what she would do. She gonna throw Alex completely under the bus? Or is she gonna, I don't know what kind of proof they have other than maybe text messages or something that showed that she was communicating with him directly about that. That's conspiracy.
Right.
Now they're all gone.
The only witnesses they have to call to the stand are dead now. So that's a problem.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's see the thing of and Kay and Larry Woodcock were JJ's biological grandparent. Well, Kay was JJ's biological grandmother. Larry is her husband, been her husband for years, JJ's only grandfather. And then Charles is Kay's brother who adopted JJ. So she lost JJ and her brother, her grandson and her brother, all because of Lori. So here they are facing another trial for another family member who died at the hands of Lori Vallow. And it's like I love Larry and Kay. I follow her on Twitter. Larry is like this big teddy bear. He's like he's a tall man, but a thinner man, and he's just, I don't know, they're amazing people. And they really thought, they were doing the right thing when they allowed Charles and Lori to adopt him. And apparently at the time they were. By all accounts, they really, really were. And then something happened within Lori along the way where she just took a diversion and just when all this religious fringe stuff started happening. And then look what's happened since then. Everybody in their wake is gone, including Chad's wife. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's a little eye-opening to me to look at the case in Arizona after the case in Idaho, because that actually happened later after Charles was shot. And after she and Chad did their thing. So
yeah, because there's a whole thing going into how those two met and what that manifested into, is interesting to me because of the cultish aspect that exists within that. And all the players that were talked about in Lori's trial that were really significant to what was happening and with trying to cover up that the kids were gone. one of her friends. So there's a lot to unpack with just those two along and how they got where they were at. And then I found it interesting they hadn't even turned on each other. Lori never once in her trial threw Chad under the bus anywhere along the lines of that. And then he didn't do that either during his trial. So
Right. And now we have a completely different trial in
mhm.
Phoenix and Maricopa County.
And and Chad's not involved in this case because he
Nope, not
wasn't
at all.
involved in it.
Nope. And I'd never been to the Maricopa court thing downtown, the court complex. It's a complex. It's a bunch of buildings, a bunch of county buildings and a bunch of state buildings all together
Mhm.
in one spot. And when I looked on the map online, I was like, holy crap, how am I ever going to find this? So
I told you it was one of my favorite crime counties, and it's got one of the largest county jails, right, in the country, I think. One of the largest. Because I know that because I used to watch that, what is it, that like stuff like it may not be lockup, I think that's like prisons, but it was like county jails or whatever on one of them channels on TV, whatever. Y'all may know what it's called. I don't remember what it's called. But I would always see the Maricopa County Jail. And I would watch it, and like some shit would go down in that jail. You know what I mean? It was a huge facility. And I was like, gosh, like one of the largest counties. I was like, dang, they house a lot of county inmates at that jail. So I imagine the courthouse would be fairly big, right?
it's ginormous. There are multiple
Yeah.
towers. So you walk in the
Wow.
public entrance and go through security, and they have this big so after you go through security, you can go to the right for information. And I almost went that way, but then I looked off to my left, and up on the wall, they have this thing that's like at airports, when you get off of your plane and you have a connecting flight, or you're just getting to your gate for your first flight, and they have all of these television screens, monitors up there that show all of the different airlines and all the different cities and all the different flights. They have that for court cases. They have 8 screens up there, and it's 8 different court systems. So you have to find the one that applies to whatever place you're going. And it took me literally 5 minutes of standing in front of that, watching each of the 8 different screens before I found the one that had Lori Vallow listed on it. And it was like the S's through the Z's. But it told me what courtroom she was in. It said 2D, courtroom 2D. So then I went over to information, and I'm like, okay, courtroom 2D. He says, go up the South Tower, and then you turn left, and then you turn right, and it's right there. And I did, and I was right there. I was panicking a little bit because I got a late start, and I had a little bit of traffic on the interstate, and I got there at 8:17, and our hearing was at 8:30, scheduled for 8:30. I was in the courtroom by 8:26. Like, it took me 9 minutes to park, pay the parking meter, go through security, go to the South Tower, and sit down in the courtroom. So it was very efficient, and the security guys were all really cool. I ended up, because I did research today after the court case, I went down to the Superior Court clerk's office and I picked up some court docs. I had to go through security 3 times, and every time through security, I set off the metal detector for some reason. I mean, and it was up around my chest area. So first time, the guy's like waving his guy, like, do you have pins in there or something? I'm like, no. I opened up my jacket, and he's like, all right, go on through. Second time, the guy, it's right around my chest area. And the guy's like, do you have a necklace, or do you have some kind of medical device in there? Do you have a pacemaker? I'm like, no, not yet. No. And he let me through. And then the third time, when it went off again around my chest area, I'm like, okay, I'm wearing an underwire bra. I forgot to take off my underwire bra.
That's funny.
And she
When
didn't find it that funny. Yeah.
I'm not used to going to the courthouse, so like the last time I had to go to a courthouse was like back in the summer, I think. My kid got a citation for like vaping. It was like THC or whatever. Anyway, he had to pay this fine, right? So he got in trouble, had to pay his fine. I made him pay it and all these things. But I had to go to the courthouse to take like this document down there to the clerk of court or some shit. I had to go down there for whatever reason. So I'm like, okay. So I go in there, and when I go through, there's nobody there. It's a quiet little courthouse. Nothing happening here. So I go in and I set off the thing. Of course, you got to put all your stuff in this little bin, and it goes through X-ray, and you walk through. But whatever was in my bin was going off, and they're looking at me. Like they do it again, and like it kept doing it. And I'm like, there's nothing in there. And finally, one cop looks at me. He's like, "Do you have a knife in there?" And it dawned on me, and I looked at him. I was like, "Oops." He's like, "Oops." I was like, "There might be." I was like, "There's a torn piece in the pocket, and it's like down in there, and I can't get it out. And I forgot it was in there because I haven't used this thing in forever." Like that was the truth. And they laughed at me. They're like, "Okay, just leave it right over here, and we'll walk you over here to the window you need to go." I was like, "Man, I'm trying to walk up into the courthouse carrying this stupid knife, and it's like a pocket knife. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm gonna get in there and wreak havoc or anything." But yeah, they got their rules, man. We have to follow them.
Yes, yes, we do.
We have to be safe. They didn't know I could have been some crazy lady, I guess, you know.
So when I got there, I saw the 2 TV cameras. They were off in the back right corner of the courtroom. And I sat down on the left side, 3 rows back, which was behind the defense table. I could have sat up right behind the defense table. There was nobody in the front row. There were 3 ladies in the second row. I sat behind them to the left so I could see. And I thought it was going to be broadcast live. And Bob Mata thought it was too, because he did a live stream. And I couldn't. So I ended up logging into his live stream into the chat and said a couple things, but I couldn't hear him. And he had questions for me, which if I had heard, and if I had known that the TV cameras stopped or were not allowed to live stream, I probably would have been more proactive in getting people information live in the moment. Because unlike Carroll County, you can take your phone into the courtroom and you can be sitting on your phone. And there were the 2 ladies with the laptops, and I mean, you can be doing everything but recording. The only signs that prohibited anything said no photographs or video recording. That's all. It doesn't say you can't be live streaming. I mean, I don't mean like live streaming video. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, going into a YouTube chat or going on Twitter and just updating everybody with what's going on in the
Giving
hearing.
a live update on Twitter, like you can do,
Yep.
you could
And
do,
I wish I would have
that.
done that.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, you can do that tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow when the cameras are rolling and I don't need to.
Well, I mean, not everybody can watch it live. They tune into Twitter to get their updates. You know, that's a lot of
That's
a
actually a good
lot of
idea. That's a good point.
yeah. That's I am guilty of doing that. You know, I barely watch my local news. Like I don't know what's happening around me half the time. It's a shame, but I don't. And so people get their news in different ways. You know what I mean? And their updates in a lot of ways. And Twitter's a big way. Because not everybody can be present to watch them if they're working or they're checking their updates and things like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. So let's so then Fox 10 did record it and they posted it later, you know, just a little while later. And so I think maybe they weren't allowed to do it live in case there was sensitive medical information that was released. They would have a chance to, you know, to edit that out of whatever was being heard in here. So this is what I heard too.
You need to share your Twitter link.
My Twitter link? Oh yeah. So when I do live updates tomorrow on Twitter, very good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll work on that while we're watching this video of the hearing from Fox 10, which is exactly what I saw. So they're in the back right corner of the courtroom. I'm in kind of the middle left of the courtroom off to your left side. You can see there's a door right there. There's a deputy or a bailiff that's got on the blue latex gloves. He's the one that goes into that holding room. That's a holding room for prisoners. He goes in there to get her right before 8:40. Well, you can see the clock right there. So I'm in there at 8:26, waited till about 8:38. Didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if she was going to show up like last time she didn't. And then at about 8:38, judge says, okay, you can bring her in. And this is what I see from the other angle.
Morning. You're the victim of a crime with a case pending before this court. You're advised that you have rights under
Really
Arizona
have-
law that, among others, include the CR 2021-001-704-001.
I'm not hearing any volume.
And I recognize a lot of the
Are you hearing
statements
any
and
volume?
information within.
Yeah, we can hear. I can hear it.
242-001
Okay,
and CR
there we go.
2021
It was delayed.
001-704-001.
Let's go back. Let's back up.
Law that, among others, include the
There
right
we
to be
go.
treated with fairness, respect, and dignity, to a speedy trial, to be present at court proceedings, to choose whether or not to be interviewed by the defendant or the defendant's attorney, to be heard before the court makes a decision on release, negotiation of a plea, scheduling and sentencing, and to receive restitution from a person who's convicted of causing you loss. If you have not already been provided with a written statement of all victims' rights, please contact the Victim Services Division of the Prosecutor's Office. Okay, we're ready to go on the record now in calendar number 1 and 2. This is CR 2022-001-242-001 and CR 2021-001-704-001. Matters of the State of Arizona versus Lori Vallow have appearances.
Good morning, Your Honor. Katie Staub, appearing for the state.
Morning.
Good morning, our Pamela Hicks and Robert Abernathy on behalf of Ms. Lori Vallow Daybell, who's present and in custody.
Thank you. Ma'am, tell me your full name and date of birth for the record.
Lori Daybell, 6/26/1973.
Thank you. All right. So last we were here, we were waiting on a second report from Dr. Hernandez. Since that time, Dr. Hernandez has been relieved. The court's appointed Dr. Webster. Dr. Webster has met with the defendant and submitted a report dated December 2nd, 2020.
So let's just talk about that for a second. Why we might have two different doctors involved. One has been removed. This was my thought. Hold on. It's too bright in here. My thought was perhaps she didn't get along with that first doctor, because I have a feeling that she's the type of personality that is either going to get along well with her doctors and the people and her legal people on her legal team and the judge, or she's going to rub them the wrong way, or they're going to rub her the wrong way. And I have a feeling, with no facts to support it, that she might have not got along with that first doctor. And he deemed her competent. We have that. We got that report today. He deemed her competent, but then he was removed. The judge has said he was removed, and another doctor was appointed to do the evaluation. So that's just my 2 cents, what I had the thought in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, there's a good option to choose from, because there's no telling what it was, but apparently it may have been something minor that caused them to be removed. Look at the stark difference though. Over there in Delphi, you got the doctor joining Facebook groups and talking openly to YouTubers and all these things, but we take their evaluations quite seriously in the trial, which is, BS. But these doctors over here, one was removed already. Why? What was the circumstances behind that? Like you said, was probably because she didn't get along with them and disagreed or whatever, with whatever Lori thinks. But you got two different doctors now that have the same conclusion. So
Yeah. Yep.
2024. So we do have 2 reports. My understanding from the state is that there's some issue though with the redactions that were made to that report. Did you want to be heard on that, Ms. Staub?
Just briefly, I did send an email to the court and to defense counsel yesterday, just indicating upon review, the state's review of the most recent report, it seems like there were a lot of redactions made, most concerning in the opinion of the doctor. So I just wanted the court to have an opportunity to review that and assess basically whether those redactions were appropriate.
Okay.
Those redactions.
A2.
Assess basically whether those redactions were appropriate.
Okay.
Can you guys hear that? Because once again, I can't hear it.
So redaction of Rule 11 reports
yes,
is dictated
Okay.
by Rule 11.4 A2. Redactions are allowed for any statements by the defendant about the charged offense or any other charged or uncharged offense or any summary of such offense. I read that to be very broad, but I don't read that to include anything outside of statements about those things.
So that's a pretty important distinction right here. And
Yeah.
basically, this is the only discussion that was between the state and the defense counsel.
Mm-hmm.
The redactions in the Rule 11 reports. Both doctors prepared Rule 11 reports, and I think the first doctor may have actually prepared 2 Rule 11 reports. And there were some redactions in those that were a point of contention between the state and the defense. And the judge just explained that the only redactions that can take place are from things that are charged or could be charged or uncharged offenses, I think was his language. And that's the state case precedent right now. That's probably not like a legislated rule. That's probably, according to case law, things can be redacted from a doctor's report if they are related to charged or uncharged offenses. So that also means things that happened in Idaho. That doesn't just mean things that happened in Arizona. So if she talked about those things with the doctors, then the defense is saying those should be redacted. And so between the two parties, they came up with an agreed upon redacted set of reports from the doctors. And he's kind of going over that now, but the defense attorney has some questions about it. And she says something here that really strikes me as odd.
Did you wish to be heard on redactions?
No, I'm just looking, and and I did not bring my laptop, but I have my highlighted copy here. And if it says to section 4, the opinion as to competency, I had some things that I talked to my team about whether or not they were questionable, but I don't think I redacted, but the court can correct me if I'm wrong.
The state provided the court a copy of what they've received, and it does have a redaction here under the 4th section in the clinical formation on page 5 of the report. So it's that last sentence of the first paragraph there.
I think that was just because it was relating. It wasn't necessarily a statement, but the comment was relating to Idaho.
Okay. And I recognize a lot of the statements and information within Rule 11 proceedings might be concerning. There are certainly protections by law to prevent those from coming in as evidence at trial. And so rest assured that this information is not going to, unless it falls under limited exceptions, it's not going to bleed into any trial stages of the case. But from my reading of what's been redacted, I'm not sure that it falls within that rule. So how do we want to proceed?
It's that last sentence, correct?
Last sentence of the first paragraph under clinical formation.
I'm fine with just reading it.
Okay, so we can actually print out that last page and provide it to the state with the
That way.
defense's permission.
That's fine. Or should I just show it to her?
And I just want to be clear for the record. Your Honor has reviewed the other redactions and finds them appropriate. That was the clinical formulation was the most concerning part to the state, but because we usually don't see that extensive of redactions, I just wanted to be sure that, and that's fine if the court has made the evaluation that those are appropriate. I just want that to be clear on the record.
Ms. Hicks, do these other statements, are you wanting to lift redactions of these other statements as well based on what we've discussed this morning?
So section 3, the family and social information, those statements kind of deal with the arrest, when she was arrested. So, and we're being cautious in this case, given the unique circumstances of it.
How about the other statements?
Oh, sorry. The one in the history, the victimization history, we're standing by that redaction. We wouldn't, I don't know how to phrase this, but it gave us some concern that potentially could be issues in a in a trial, obviously.
But how is it a statement of a charged or uncharged offense under the rule?
Again, I'm pretty new to this case.
Hold on a second there, lady.
That's not looking good for the defense.
Yeah. She's having a competency hearing and she says, this struck me. I'm really new to this case.
And she already forgot her laptop and had to go to her highlighted notes.
Yep.
And this courtroom has really good audio, thank goodness. You can hear the judge loud and clear and the prosecution as well.
Yeah, she's a little fainter. She's standing a little bit away from her microphone.
She's not quite so confident.
Yeah, it's a little harder to hear her.
All right, well. Strike two.
I think that's a pantsuit that she's kind of wearing there, but I was trying to figure out her options.
Oh, good Lord.
Those are like dress slacks with a flower pattern.
Look, Lori's dressed in orange pre-trial during a hearing, dressed in orange. It's not a dress, no dress.
And she was handcuffed in front. Her hands were handcuffed in front of her.
No, this ain't Idaho, honey.
I think if I'm correct as to what happened in Idaho, there may have been, plus could we maybe approach?
You may.
So here's where we go to the sidebar.
Back on the record, thank you. To be clear then, in terms of what the rule permits for redaction, the court is allowing redaction, as counsel indicated, in terms of some language about an arrest and extradition, but other redactions do not appear to fit underneath Rule 11.4 and so should be lifted. So the state has a chance to review that. It's just a few sentences in a brief report. And so I hope that the state can do that and we can proceed this morning to prevent any further delay. Is that something we can do?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And the state doesn't need to review all the redactions in order to stipulate. For the purposes of the record and so that we have the unredacted copy, if defense counsel can get that to us as soon as possible, we can still proceed today.
All right. So with that, are the parties prepared or willing to stipulate to the two mental health expert reports?
So I just want to make sure I will provide a copy where we can leave in the redaction on page 2, take out the other redactions, send that to the state, and then move forward. Yeah.
That's correct.
So that's kind of why I wasn't 100% confident that both sides had 100% stipulated, because there's like some back and forth right here where she's like, well, I just want to make sure that it's clear that it doesn't look like the defense filed anything. And the judge is like, why would anybody think you filed anything? Your stipulation. So they both have to fill out stipulation forms. They have stipulation forms on their desks where they're both stipulating that both doctors found her competent to proceed. But there's just this back and forth right here that I was just like, I'm not 100% sure that they did both stipulate, but I think they did.
Correct.
Okay. And as far as stipulated a competency, just so that the record is clear, because again, we had filed to get out of here. We're here because the court placed her placed her in Rule 11 on its own motion. That's why we didn't fill out the form and have that prepared.
Right.
We do agree that there's two competent reports and would like to move forward. And we just as defense don't necessarily want to technically stipulate, but we will. Does that make sense?
Not really, no. Because there's really only two avenues here to proceed. You can contest that she's competent and we can have an evidentiary hearing and you can present your evidence, or the parties can stipulate to the reports which do find her competent.
Let me just say this. We are willing to stipulate. It's just we want the record to be clear that we're here on the court's motion and not a defense motion. But we are stipulating the competency so we can move forward.
Right. But nothing in filling out a stipulation form would reflect that you're here on your own motion, or that you agree with being in Rule 11. So that would be how I would suggest we proceed. Is that something defense is willing to do? All right. We've got stipulation forms in front of you in that basket right there. And so you can fill that out. The state's agreeing to stipulate to the reports.
That's correct.
Okay. The court is not yet in receipt, but will be in receipt of a stipulation as to the defendant's competency based on the written reports here by Dr. McGady, dated November 7th, 2024. Dr. Webster, dated December 2nd, 2024. Stipulation having been accepted, the reports having been considered, court finds the defendant understands the proceedings, is able to assist counsel in her defense. Court further finds the defendant competent pursuant to statute. It is ordered affirming prior release conditions, and we'll get you a new date in front of Judge Boreski so you can proceed in your case. Judge Boreski indicated he can get you in tomorrow at the earliest at 8:30 or 9 a.m. Does that work for counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm remanding this matter to Judge Boreski's division. We'll set it as a status conference tomorrow. That's December 6th at 8:30 a.m. Anything further?
No.
Your Honor, can we just have a moment to make sure that that works for the victim?
Conference tomorrow. That's December or 9 a.m. Does that work for counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm remanding this matter to Judge Boreski's division. We'll set it as a status conference tomorrow. That's December 6th at 8:30 a.m. Anything further?
No.
Your Honor, can we just have a moment to make sure that that works for the victims and next of kin?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Judge, I don't know what the order is, but we're ready on Lizardo number 19 whenever you are.
Okay, not ready yet, but we'll let you know when we are.
I didn't stick around for Lizardo number 19.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
So I guess tomorrow, because the trial is set to start in what, I think February of 2025.
That's really, really fast for somebody who just joined the case. That's nuts. I don't think that's happening. I don't think there's any way.
It probably, yeah, tomorrow's a status hearing, so they'll try to get some hearings scheduled probably and figure out, I guess, make some rule. Maybe he'll rule on whether or not she can represent herself. That's going to tell us more than anything, as to how it will move forward.
I would think if she represents herself, they probably could move forward a little faster because
Yeah.
she's familiar with all of the facts of her case.
Yeah, I mean, she should be the most familiar with them. So, shouldn't be too much time to prepare. She's had all this time to prepare. So, get it on, Lori.
My nose is itching. What is that a sign of when your nose itches?
Oh shoot, my granny had all kinds of sayings.
Tomorrow
Somebody's
will
coming to
work
see
for
you.
everyone, so thank you.
We'll set it for tomorrow's status conference with Judge Boreski, 8:30 a.m. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, Judge.
All right, Judge Boreski, tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. I think if your palm is itching, that means money's coming your way.
Yeah, the palm itches. I think the nose is itching. Someone's coming to see you. If your palm itches, you have money coming, which I don't think that's always true. I've thought about it at times, like, damn, my palm itches. Like, oh, okay, well then, nah, I don't know.
Where's my money? Where's my money? I'm still waiting.
Where's my money? My palm was itching. I'm entitled to
No,
some
yes.
money, but crazy. There's a lot with this lady that's happened over time.
There is a trail of bodies that are in her wake.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Unfortunately, it's crazy. And, and to think that I mean, I assume they thought they would literally get away with all of it. All of it. Like none of it would ever get looked into. And how do you explain that your kids are just gone, but don't worry about them, they're safe, so don't ask me any questions and blah blah blah. End of story. It's like, wow. They thought that was gonna work, but it didn't.
No, not even close. I can't fathom. But I got to be wrapping this up. It's my granddaughter's first birthday, and we're getting ready to have us some
Oh,
celebrations.
that's right. Happy birthday, little one. First birthday. What a milestone, right? Mine just turned 18, the son, and now you have the little grandbaby turning a year old. That's so cool. Little Christmas babies.
Yep.
Aw. Well, go enjoy your time with that little sweet girl for sure. For sure. And I know a few people checked out early. They were had to say goodnight. So I missed saying goodnight to them. So good night to all of those that were here earlier. And thanks to the rest of you for all coming in, and the new ones that just came in and the ones that have been here. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. There's
Yes,
a
we
lot
do.
more to unpack with this story, and we'll get to some more of it as we move through this with Joe. He's going to go in the morning, like he said. He's going to go to the hearings. So, did you drop your Twitter in there, Joe? Yeah.
I did
So you
just a little
guys,
while ago. Yep.
yeah, if you guys have Twitter, go follow Joe on Twitter, and you can see these when he posts when we go live. We both post onto the Twitter account so that anybody there can see us as well. So follow him so you can get the updates, and you can also
Bye,
see what he's
everybody.
doing.
Have a
Have a
great
good
night. Thanks,
night.
Salty. Thanks, Salty, for jumping in
Good
here.
night. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.